I'm Luke Beard.
I'm Kris Green.
I'm Gunter.
And I'm Nash Rainey.
And we are
the Backups.
All right, let's kick right into this, man. All-Star Weekend. What did y'all think about it?
Man, Matt McClung, man, he took over the weekend. Really.
He did for real. I mean, he came out of nowhere. Obviously, he was a great dunker in high school. Everyone knew who he was because of his dunk clips and his highlight tapes. But really, he's been playing on the G League all season, just got called up to the Sixers, and he put on a show.
A real statement performance from Mac McClung. But, I mean, me personally, I was a little underwhelmed by the All-Star game. Like, I get it. It's obviously no one wants to play real defense because there's no real stakes there. But I feel like there's got to be some sort of incentive for teams to win. It seemed a little boring, I guess.
I mean, you have like photos of the game, and it's like you have the one-on-one, and then you have all the other 8 players standing off on the sideline. Like, it's just not entertaining that way.
Yeah, and I mean, they're playing for charity, so they're playing for good causes, but they need to drive more passion into it, I feel like, because maybe give them an incentive as well to help them, boost their earnings for the season.
Yeah, and I know what you said about an incentive. I think they should go back to the East versus West format and make it where the winning conference gets home court advantage in the finals.
I mean, I like that. That's not bad.
A great idea.
I mean, and also the celebrity game. We can talk about, DK Metcalf, MVP, obviously deserved. He's a fantastic athlete, but the Miz half-court shot that they called off because he was just too late, man.
It's a tragic.
It's upsetting
to see that.
I wish they would have just countered that just because,
Because no one's making that in a celebrity game.
Right.
That shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
That's a rare occurrence. I felt personally, I love the celebrity game, but for at least from my standpoint, I felt like one team was a bit more entertaining to see than the other.
Yeah.
I really like seeing Team Dwayne Wade. Like, I just didn't, it seemed lopsided in terms of entertainment factor. Like, when they were going through a lot of the introductions, I was like seeing some of these people, and I was like, who? Like, who are? I don't know these people. And then they switched to Team Dwayne Wade, and I'm like, okay, this is what I think of when I think a celebrity game. Like, it seemed like a weird disconnect between the two teams.
Yeah.
And I did like seeing Richard Jefferson go from being a commentator to then a ref and then playing in the game.
I mean,
that was pretty entertaining.
He's jack of all trades. He does everything. In the three-point contest, Damian Lillard, he still has it. That's all I can say, really. He's probably still one of the best point guards in the league.
He balled up.
He did.
He really
and Tyrese Halliburton. Really good first round.
He has a real arthritis shot for him, but, he was making it. He was making it.
If the ball goes in,
Right.
I mean, put it, 31 in the first round? Tying for the record in the round, I believe,
With Curry.
Let's move off of the All-Star Week and move more to just NBA news as a whole. Russell Westbrook to the Clippers. I mean, who's stopping him?
The Clippers.
I think the real question is who isn't stopping that team. Like, I don't think Russ and the Clippers are thinking, okay, this is their year, guys. It's happening this year. Like,
I just don't know how deep they are. I mean, Kawhi,
you got Paul
George,
They have Norman Powell coming off the bench.
That's true.
They have good depth, but I just feel like Russ doesn't fit with the Clippers system. I feel like he would fit more with Miami.
Definitely a team like Miami who already have shooters.
Right.
I mean, the Clippers.
All they're missing is a guard.
Yeah, the Clippers are really lacking shooters, I feel like, and that's going to kind of. Russ he's not the shooter he once was.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, he's still, I mean, I think he could still do some really special things on that team. He can still average triple-double, I believe.
Right.
But it's just how many minutes they give him and what kind of role he's put into, I think, really.
And is this Clippers team, do you any of y'all think this is a Clippers team that can compete with some of the bigger teams in the West?
I think they could compete. I don't think they can beat any of the teams in the 7-game series.
No. Okay.
I think they can make it maybe 6 games competitive, 6 games, but not 7.
Make it entertaining, but they're not coming out with that.
Yeah. They're not going to beat the Mavericks. They're not going to beat the Suns. None of those games. Kevin Love to the Heat. I'm just not sure how much that's really going to impact this team. Right. Obviously, it gives them depth that they need, and he could start out and see him starting really. But it's just he's getting older, and he's been on the Cavaliers for so long. It's going to be interesting seeing him in a new uniform. I'm excited for that.
Right. Yeah. It feels like one of those. It feels like almost like one of those fun facts you hear about. You think you like 10 years from now when he's retired, people are going to be thinking about, Kevin Love, great Cavalier, and then they're going to say, oh, did you know he's on the Heat for a season? That's the kind of narrative it feels like. It doesn't feel like this is some big move that's going to change how the Heat are going to compete in the playoffs.
And for me, it's also like the Heat already have enough big men, so why are you picking up Kevin Love?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's too much gain there.
Yeah.
No, I'd agree. I mean, they have young bigs, they have older bigs, they have Udonis Haslem. Obviously, he doesn't get many minutes, but it just feels like they're adding in older bigs to maybe put more experience to it. They have a younger team, so I feel like it's more of an experience thing, but I don't know how I can see that working out. But still, Eric Spoelstra is a great coach. I'm sure he'll figure it out down there. Lonzo Ball out for the season. That knee injury, man, he's been, how many seasons this now? Second one?
Just about.
Yeah, I mean.
It happened last season.
Exactly, yeah. So he got injured last season. He never came back, did he?
No, he never
We expect him back for the beginning of this season. He just never.
He was supposed to be back for the beginning of the playoffs.
Yeah, and he just never came back, and it's just. I'm hoping he recovers from this because I think he is still a really good player, and I still think his ceiling's very high. He's one of the best passers in the league. He's one of the best defending guards in the league, and he brings a lot to this Bulls team, and he's learning how to shoot the ball.
I will say, if I'm like the owner of the Bills and you're paying all that money, if he's not going to play, then why would you want to keep him? I mean, I know he's a good player, but
I just feel like getting rid of him wouldn't work for the team either.
Yeah,
it's just a lot.
I agree, and you see this season they're struggling really bad with him. They need a facilitator. He's like a player that you need for a championship team every year.
You need those big pieces at the end of the day, and I mean they're 6-game losing streak right now, and I don't see this team doing much in terms of getting in the play, and I just don't see that happening.
No, I'd agree. The shot selection hasn't been great this season because, I mean, you have Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, two very good players, but it just seems that they can't really pass the ball around without Lonzo Ball on that team.
And not really great playoff performance either.
No.
Not at all.
And then the Hawks today firing head coach Nate McMillan. What do you think about that?
It's interesting to me because it's the second coach that Trae Young has went through, so it's just making me wonder, like, what's going on in that locker room? When will they find the right coach for that team that can handle Trae Young and get the pieces around him to help the team be great?
Exactly. Like, what are we not seeing going on there?
Right.
I mean, for me personally, I'm a big Hornets fan, so I loved Nate McMillan on the Hawks. Like, I loved him there just because they lost a lot. But I feel like where do they go now? Ideally speaking, what's the big target for the Hawks in the offseason?
I still feel like it's trading John Collins. I don't think they should, but they seem to really want to get him out of there for some reason because he's young. I think he's a very good player. He has a really high ceiling to me. He's one of my favorite players in the league right now. I really like his game. But I just don't know what they're going to do. I can't really see them moving on from Trae, but I can't see them moving on from John Collins either. But they seem to have wanted to the last couple seasons. And, I mean, Joe Prunty becoming the interim coach. I believe he was the interim in Milwaukee a couple years back.
Yeah.
And I think he lost in the playoffs with them. However, he gets another shot as interim coach, so good for him. Speaking of basketball, we can move into Clemson basketball. Tough loss against Louisville. I mean, what are we doing?
It's the statement of our recent performances. I mean, we start out this season red hot. We're looking great. We're top of the ACC, and then, come our last game, we're losing to a 3-23 Louisville in the KFC Yum Center. Just what is going on with this team?
It shouldn't be happening.
It should not be happening.
I will say we did foul Louisville 22 times, which led to Louisville scoring 26 of 28 free throws, that's 26 free points right there. So you got to even it out a little bit.
It's the game's being ruled by silly mistakes.
And
really.
to pick up on silly mistakes, you cannot win a basketball game shooting 4 for 24 from the three-point line.
No.
At some point, you have to say, like, okay, let's stop shooting threes. Let's work to the mid-range. Let's get to the paint. Let's try and get some free throws. You just cannot shoot 4 for 24 from the three-point line.
And then just regular field goals. We went 29 for 67.
Right.
You're throwing the ball up there 67 times. I'm expecting you to make more than 29.
Especially off a red-hot performance against Florida State. We looked fantastic. We beat them by 40, and we moved up in the net a lot. But like all season, we've been moving down the net rankings. We're down to 81 now. P.J. Hall had a great game, as he always does. 12 for 21 field goals and 3 for 5 on free throws. But just looking towards the rest of the season, what are y'all thinking?
I mean, I think we need to beat Syracuse, obviously. Virginia is going to be tough. I think we can maybe beat them, even though it's at Virginia. NC State's a must-win. And then Notre Dame's last in the ACC, so we should beat them pretty well.
I mean, we said the same thing about Louisville.
I was about to say that.
The problem with this team is that I really don't know what to expect. I've seen very good performances. I've seen very bad. I mean, going from a 40-point win at home and then losing in the KFC Yum Center, it's just confusing. I think a really big statement is how we're going to do in the ACC tourney, because I think that's really going to be a statement of where is this team at the end of the season? What are we trying to be? And then I also want to ask, what are we saying about the coaching here? I feel like at some point there needs to be something said about
Brad
the coaching.
Brownell's been here for over 10 years, I think 13, 15 years. And, I can't say he hasn't made a big impact because I feel like he has seasons where he does a huge impact on this team.
We made it to the Sweet
and I think the
16
players
before.
love him. It really seems like the players play for Brad. So I'm not saying to fire him, but I just think it's I really don't know. It's just time to kind of get in a mindset of we need to start winning now, or, there could be a firing possibility. I don't think there will be, especially off this season. He started off so well. It's just a lot of injuries happen. You can't affect that. But we are not a team that will be playing in March, I don't believe.
And the other thing is, it's like, I want to blame most of it on Brad Brownell, but the offense, like the plays are good that he draws up, but then at the same time, just the bad shot selections. It's like, we'll have a three that it's not open, and then we take it, and then obviously it doesn't fall in.
Yep. And it's just, we seem to take a lot of shots like that, especially at home games that we've all been to together. It just, every time we watch, we're sitting there and one of us will be like, we need to stop shooting threes. We need to start really pushing in the paint. And we just never do. It seems like we really like to settle for threes, and we can't really make those threes that we want to settle for. So sometimes you have to settle for two to keep a game.
And I will say, in the Florida State game, it looked like we were shooting more in the paint, and that helped us excel in that game with good assists.
I'd agree with that, yeah, for sure. Speaking of Clemson teams, we had a rough weekend with basketball, but a fantastic weekend in both baseball and softball. Two, dominant series, really. We did have a little pitching battle on Saturday against Binghamton in baseball. However, we came back on Sunday and we won 19-1. What are y'all thinking about the teams this season?
I think they really couldn't. I don't envision much of a better start to the year than this one. They absolutely set the tone. They had big wins against big teams in both baseball and softball. We're showing a lot of talent. We're showing a lot of ability, and I think this is the kind of momentum setter you want at the beginning of the year. Exactly.
I agree. That's a really great start to the season. I'm looking forward to going to a few games to pick up on a great season.
Yeah. And then I just really, really think we look good in softball. We are fifth in the nation. We just beat Georgia today, number 16 Georgia team, and that's a pretty big win. It's always nice to beat a team like Georgia, or like we swept both Northwestern and Ohio State this weekend, so that's a really good start. And we did great in the tournament last weekend. Our softball team looks incredible.
Yeah, exactly. It's always great to have a team in a sport like this where they're top 10 and you see how they play and they're a top 10. They didn't get into that spot because of the name or the uniform. They got into the top 10 because they played amazing against big competition.
Exactly. Let's talk a little bit about the XFL. St. Louis Battlehawks pull up a 15-point comeback with the 9-point touchdown, and then the 4th and 15 conversion that I really like for the onside kicks. I'm not saying the NFL should adopt it, but I'm saying the NFL should adopt it.
Yeah, exactly. I think this game was like the epitome of the rule differences in the XFL. You have a touchdown and then they go for 3 points, which is just unheard of in the NFL, and they get it. And then instead of an onside kick, which usually is 15% chance of success, they go for this 4th and 15 and they get it, and they drive down the field and score another touchdown. It really shows how different the two leagues are, even though they play the same game.
And just enough on what you said, a 4th and 15 conversion, whether it's NFL, XFL, CFL, is just crazy to think about in a game-changing decision.
It does make special teams feel a little diminished. Right. However, I feel like the XFL isn't really a special teams kind of league to me. Right. I don't know if y'all saw the kickoffs for it, but they're about 5 yards away from each other in just your regular kickoff, and it's as soon as the guy catches it, you go. So that's another different thing, and special teams do feel a little diminished, but I think a lot of the special teams players could still succeed in these leagues.
I'll say my favorite thing about the XFL is you see all the players that were once pro and now they're back at it again, like A.J. McCarron, love seeing him, Martavius Bryant, and Vic Beasley both playing again in the XFL. It's really nice to see.
And Josh Gordon, who was fantastic in the NFL, and I still think he could play with NFL caliber players. So seeing him he played well, and seeing him continue to succeed is very nice. Yeah, for all fans, really.
And I think these kind of fundamental differences will really help the league survive. I think a big problem with these other leagues is that they just try and be another NFL but smaller, so it's really hard to bring in those kind of the same kind of TV viewers. I think when you really have like 9-point touchdowns, and you have a 4th and 15 to get the ball back, and your kickoffs are different, and differences like that help make the game more unique, and I feel like it'll really help draw in more viewers.
And it's really another success story for The Rock too. If we're just thinking in general, succeeds in college football for Miami. Now he's succeeding in XFL football, and being a partial owner for the league, I think will be good for them because he's such a huge name. I think his impact on the world around him in general, it can help the XFL continue their relevance and continue to succeed.
I think it also needs to be a developmental league going forward, especially just any type of spring football. It needs to be a developmental league, kind of like the G League and NBA, because then you can have players move up, like PJ Walker on the Panthers moved up from the XFL.
And they could also do, I would like a possible merger with the USFL between those two leagues. It adds more teams, and you can have, like the G League, NFL teams running those smaller teams and pulling people instead of like practice squad where they really don't get any game experience. You're giving these people game experience as well.
Yeah, it's those kind of systems I think really work well for sports like baseball and basketball and hockey. And it's always been really confusing as to why the NFL doesn't really have something all that similar. And I think the USFL and the XFL would be great to serve that kind of role.
I'd agree with that. Let's get into the NFL since we're talking about football. The coaching changes. Eric Bieniemy leaving the Kansas City Chiefs, multiple-time Super Bowl winner with them, and he's been fantastic there. I saw LaShawn McCoy say he don't see a lot of offense coordinating qualities from Eric Bieniemy. He played under Bieniemy. However, Tyreek Hill came back and said he seemed to enjoy Bieniemy. He sent some shots at LaShawn McCoy. But Eric Bieniemy really, I think, is a fantastic coordinator, should be given a shot as a head coach. And I think going to the Commanders will help him prove himself as a coordinator and will help him get to that coaching level he wants to get to.
Exactly. OC is always one of those, it's like the big coordinators are always kind of the unsung heroes of good teams, because when teams are playing really badly, everyone's going after them. But when the team's playing really well, like the Chiefs, everyone's praising Andy Reid. But I think you really need to consider what a great coordinator can do. And I think the Commanders made an excellent choice because they picked up someone that they know is of head coaching talent of that caliber that they got in an OC position. And now they have someone that, if they aren't satisfied with Ron Rivera, they can easily move someone into that head coaching position like that.
I mean, how do you think about the Chiefs going forward without him? Do you think Mahomes is going to play the same? Or I think we'll play the same because it's Patrick Mahomes.
I think
he's proven himself.
Yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes is not a generational talent, but more of a all-time talent. He will go down as one of, if not the greatest quarterbacks of all time, as well as Andy Reid as a head coach will go down as one of the greatest head coaches of all time. So I think that pairing together really does help them out, especially with Kelsey still there. They have some young guys, Pacheco, fantastic season.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I don't think the Chiefs are going anywhere. I think they are still the team to beat. I still think they will probably run it back next year.
I think no matter who you put with Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be a great, phenomenal football player, no matter who you put him with.
And even when he's injured, he's still making the big-time plays.
Yeah. That's always a tough thing. It's like how much is the new OC really going to play into this when you consider the fact you have one of the best coaches of all time and one of the best QBs of all time? Like that, it's not going to be as hard to adjust for the Chiefs. I don't think it will be.
I would agree.
I think the only negative thing that would come from it is if they limited Patrick Mahomes, but I don't think an offensive coordinator going to Kansas City would limit Patrick Mahomes.
And then the Eagles offense coordinator leaving the Eagles, Shane Steichen, to become the head coach of the Colts. Obviously, some guys in there. You have Jonathan Taylor. Still not sure about the quarterback situation, but
yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think the Eagles are done? I think Steichen's an incredible offensive coordinator, and he's bringing in the passing game coordinator from the Jaguars, so I think that'll help.
Yeah. I believe that the Eagles absolutely still have that platform to succeed really well. Howie Roseman is an excellent GM, as much as I hate to say it. Jalen Hurts is a great QB, and Nick Sirianni is still with the team. And not to mention they have a top 10 pick. I think this could definitely be a team that is really competitive in the next few years.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Eagles are going to be here to stay for a very long time.
But it's also, we've said that about so many championship teams before, and then 3, 4, 5 years down the line, they're nowhere to be heard of.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that
I
develops.
think as long as they keep Jalen Hurts, they'll be in good hands.
And I mean, he's Steichen, just going to the Colts to go back to that real quick. He's such a good offensive mind anyway that I think no matter who their coordinator is, they will be perfectly fine. I think he'll do a lot of the play calling. Obviously, the passing game coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter, he's going to be fantastic for the passing game because the Colts passing game was not very good last season. They didn't have the quarterback. They don't have the receiving weapons besides Michael Pittman Jr., who's really good.
I agree. I think if there's one thing that this Colts team needs, it's Cooter, and I think they're getting it now. And I think I'm excited to see how the passing game develops this coming season.
I agree.
Yeah. So, speaking about football, the NCAA has introduced a few possible rule changes that might be introduced this coming season. What are our thoughts on that?
Well, the first one is no consecutive timeouts, which would lead to no icing the kicker. I think it could both be positive and negative because icing the kicker can change the game a lot. And then the next one is the clock will continue to run after an incomplete pass once the ball is spotted. I don't think that's a good one.
I completely agree.
No.
I think college football is defined by a lot of, you hear so much about these legendary comebacks with these explosive offenses, with all these great stars coming back, and it feels like you're punishing a team for trying to come back and taking those deep shots downfield when you keep the clock running after. It seems like it's like anti-offense in a way.
And also the other one, running the clock after offensive gains of a first down, except inside the last 2 minutes in the first half. I don't know how I feel about that one.
I don't hate that one as much as I hate the incomplete pass one. The incomplete pass one that's terrible. It's been, the clock stopping after the incomplete pass has been around forever. So I just feel like if you're not making the passes, sometimes that's on purpose. So if you spike the ball, what's the point of a spike now, really? And first downs as well. I can see why you don't like that, but I think the 2 minutes in the first half it makes a little bit more sense than doing it like the whole time. And they're just doing all these to try to make the games shorter, but I don't think it's the game making it as long. You have a commercial break after every single play. You get a first down, there's a commercial. You get touchdowns, extra points, commercials at all times. I think that should be more of a focus than rule changes. I don't understand that from the NCAA.
Exactly. It seems like they're kind of ignoring that big issue of it and going for these strange rule changes because they don't want to risk that TV revenue. It seems disingenuous.
But even with these rules, I'm like, how much shorter will the games actually be? I don't imagine maybe like 20 minutes at most, I would imagine.
Probably not even that much because it's always, if you want to get rid of anything, get rid of the commercial timeout, not the clock and stop. Because commercial timeouts, I know when we're in Death Valley, it feels like the crowd is hot, and then commercial timeout, and everyone kind of dies down, and it's like you sat there for 3.5 minutes watching nothing besides a ref holding a clock.
Yeah.
It doesn't help much. Yeah. Additional opinions. Nash, what do you have?
Well, I think I love the additional opinion, not to speak too highly of it, but last night I watched the illustrious U.S. Open of the Pro Bowling Association, and when I did some more research on it, it was truly one for the ages. So you enter in, you have E.J. Trackett and Kyle Troop facing off in the final. This is for all the marbles, $100,000 grand prize. They face off, and it is just a back and forth. It is probably the best professional bowling match I've ever watched. They're going back and forth, fantastic bowling. They're doing everything they need to do, I'm assuming, because I don't know that much about pro bowling. But in the final frame, going into frame 10, they are tied up, exactly on level. There's no one in the lead. This is for everything. You see this amazing performance from E.J. Trackett. He knows what he has to do. He had to get a strike and an 8 to win. He got 2 strikes back to back, and he solidified himself as one of the bowling greats. E.J. Trackett joins a group of 8 other bowlers in winning the Triple Crown in bowling, which is not something you see really see a lot. And it's a tragedy for Kyle Troop. Kyle Troop came in as the 5th seed, and what that means is in the Grand Championship, what they do is that each match is based off seeding, and you get a bye. So the first match is 4th seed versus the 5th seed, and then the winner of that plays the 3rd seed, and then the winner of that plays the 2nd seed, and so on. EJ Trackett came in as the first seed. He didn't have to play the first 3 matches. Kyle True came in as a 5th seed and managed to work his way up. He beat everyone in his way, and he just fell so short at the worst time possible. You hate to see it. But fantastic U.S. Open.
I think EJ Trackett, the best thing you can say about that is, who do you think you are? I am.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, he's him.
Yeah,
he's a fantastic bowler from what we watched. It seemed you were betting against him a little bit last night while we were watching, but no Trackett hate here. No Trackett hate. Chris, what do you have?
And this is just a little hot take for me. I just want to get this off about just an early playoff prediction. I think the Suns will not do as great as many people think they will. It's just like any team led by Chris Paul is just bound for disaster. It's really bound for disaster. And it all depends on if that team can stay healthy, because we know that Kevin Durant has been very injury prone as of late. Chris Paul has been very injury prone as late. So has Devin Booker. So I really don't see how that goes in the future, how it goes well.
Then you have Chris Paul being addicted to the finals, so that's also pushing him.
2 years sober.
2 years sober.
2 years sober.
The Suns are 5th in the West right now. What do you envision as their playoff performance? Where are they exiting?
Second round.
So you think they're not going to face the Mavs in that first round? Do you think the Mavs are going to move up, or the Suns move up?
I think the Suns will beat the Mavericks around this time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
They will.
I think they avoid each other in the first round. That's how I see it going. But I mean, I like their opinion really. KD, you're right, injury-prone guy. Chris Paul, injury-prone guy, and Devin Booker, can he carry a whole team on his shoulders, as well as DeAndre Ayton, of course. But trading away
Bridges, and you saw he went off for 45.
Exactly. It just seemed like that really did hurt depth of that team. They traded some picks. They traded, I believe, Cameron Johnson as well.
Yes.
And I think he was a really good player off the bench.
Really good role player.
Yeah. So.
And I'll move into the Pac-12. I believe it's going to be in shambles in the next few years. Obviously, losing UCLA and USC, which is known as pretty much the Pac-12. Like, they're always up there. And then with them leaving, going to the Big Ten, there's no really anyone to pick up where they left off, I guess. And so I think they need to move Tulane and SMU over to the Pac-12 in order for media rights and stuff, so they can watch. So people on the East Coast can watch more Pac-12, because no one's staying up till 2 a.m. to watch a Pac-12 game on the East Coast.
Exactly. I would love that for the Pac-12, just because the Tulane, Green Wave, they've been fantastic. And I really like seeing these group of 5 teams kind of graduate on and become a Power 5 team. And you just love to see that development of the program.
And Tulane's proven they're good enough beating USC in the New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah, Pac-12 finalist that a lot of people slid for the playoffs, and they didn't get crushed. But losing to Tulane is a little surprising from a team like that, because Tulane had a great season, but Pac-12 almost champion and just playoff hopeful, you don't see them losing to a team like Tulane.
Yeah.
That's just not very common. And I'll get into Madden 24. Some news came out about it. A lot of people at EA, it seems, are believing it's a make or break game for the franchise. The franchise has been around for a long time now, and it's been the same game rolling out for the past about 10, 15 years. It feels like nothing's changing with the game. I play it all the time, but still it's not very enjoyable, because I could play it 5 years ago if they didn't get rid of servers. So it's just, I'm glad they're finally going to make some changes to the game and do something new with such a famous name, such a famous franchise.
Exactly. I really think that, especially where this franchise stands right now, it's important to understand just how much this might affect the games in the coming years.
I'm thinking they should probably steer away from Madden and move into focusing on the NCAA game, because I feel like that has more hype going into it.
I agree.
Being so many years not having one of those games, and with NIL deals coming up, it's going to be the big thing in the future.
And I feel like what messes the game up is that it's so unrealistic that it's not even funny. And they do nothing. They'll add one small detail to franchise mode, and that's it.
I try to say it's a whole new game. It's just, I don't know. But I think that's it. Anyone else have anything to say?
No.
Thank you all for watching. We appreciate the support, and we will see you next week.